Dr. Phil McGraw had been doing this for 30 years. 30 years of family interventions, addiction confrontations, relationship breakdowns. He'd seen people throw chairs, storm off stage, collapse in tears. He'd managed threats, breakdowns, revelations that shattered families on live television. Security had been called before. Producers had stepped in. But nothing in 3 decades, had prepared him for what happened that afternoon. The Hendersons seemed like a typical case. A fractured family. Daniel, the father, mid-40s, corporate job, distant. Maria, the mother, late 30s, holding everything together by sheer force of will. And Kevin, their 16-year-old son, sitting between them like a wall. The presenting issue was standard: teenage rebellion, truancy, suspected drug use. The kind of case Dr. Phil had handled hundreds of times. But from the moment they sat down, something felt off. Kevin wouldn't make eye contact. Not with Dr. Phil. Not with his parents. Not with the cameras. He sat rigid, hands gripped on the armrests, knuckles white. His breathing was shallow. Fast. Dr. Phil noticed immediately but attributed it to stage nerves. Young people often froze under studio lights. "Kevin," Dr. Phil said, his voice calm and direct. "Your parents say you've changed. That 6 months ago, you were a straight-A student, captain of the soccer team, planning for college. Now you're failing classes, skipping school, staying out all night. What happened?" Kevin didn't respond. Just stared at the floor. His jaw was clenched so tight you could see the muscles working. Maria leaned forward. "He won't talk to us. He won't tell us anything. We just want to help him, Dr. Phil. We just want our son back." Daniel nodded. "We're scared. We think he's using drugs. We found things in his room. Pills. Money. We don't know where he's getting them or who he's with. He's going to ruin his life." Dr. Phil watched Kevin carefully. The boy's breathing had gotten faster. His hands were trembling. There was something else here. Something beneath the surface. Something nobody was saying. "Kevin," Dr. Phil said quietly, "what are you afraid of?" Kevin's head snapped up. For the first time, he looked directly at Dr. Phil. And in his eyes was pure terror. Not defiance. Not anger. Terror. "I'm not afraid," Kevin whispered. But his voice cracked. "Yes, you are. I can see it. Your parents can see it. Everyone watching can see it. So I'm going to ask you again, what are you afraid of?" Kevin's eyes darted to his father. Just for a second. Then back to the floor. But Dr. Phil caught it. And suddenly, pieces started clicking into place. The rigid posture. The shallow breathing. The way Kevin positioned himself as far from his father as possible, while still sitting in the same row. Dr. Phil paused mid-sentence. The studio went completely silent. He set down his note cards. Leaned back in his chair. Studied the family with 30 years of trained observation. Maria was holding a tissue, dabbing at her eyes, the picture of a worried mother. Daniel sat with his arms crossed, the stern but concerned father. And Kevin sat between them, a prisoner. "Kevin," Dr. Phil said, his voice different now, lower, more careful. "Are you safe at home?" The question hung in the air. Maria looked confused. Daniel's jaw tightened. Kevin's entire body went rigid. "Of course he's safe," Daniel said quickly. "What kind of question is that? We're here for help, not accusations." Dr. Phil didn't take his eyes off Kevin. "I wasn't asking you. Kevin, are you safe at home?" Kevin's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. No sound came out. But his eyes were screaming. And then it happened. Kevin stood up. Not slowly. Fast. Like he'd been electrocuted. The movement was so sudden, so violent, that Maria gasped. Daniel reached for him. "Sit down," he hissed. "Sit down right now." But Kevin didn't sit. He took a step back. Away from his father. His chest was heaving. His hands were shaking. And then he said it. Quietly. Barely above a whisper. But the microphones caught it. I can't do this anymore. Security had been watching from the wings. They were always there, ready for the occasional guest who got physical, who tried to leave mid-taping, who posed a threat. But they weren't watching the guests. They were watching Kevin. Because something in his body language had triggered their training. The way he positioned himself. The way he flinched when his father reached for him. The way he was backing toward the edge of the stage. And then Kevin ran. Not toward the exit. Toward the audience. Away from his parents. Away from Dr. Phil. Just away. The security guards moved instantly. 2 of them rushed onto the stage from opposite wings. The audience gasped. People half stood from their seats. Cameras swung wildly trying to follow the action. Dr. Phil was on his feet immediately. Stop! His voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Everyone stop moving. Now. The guards froze mid-stride. Kevin stopped at the edge of the stage, 3 feet from the first row of audience members, his chest heaving, tears streaming down his face. Maria had her hand over her mouth. Daniel was standing now, face red, fists clenched. Dr. Phil walked slowly toward Kevin. Not fast. Not threatening. Just steady. When he reached him, he positioned himself between Kevin and his parents. Blocked the line of sight. And spoke quietly enough that only Kevin could hear. You're safe right now. Right here. Nobody is going to hurt you. Do you understand? Kevin nodded. Couldn't speak. Just nodded. Dr. Phil turned to the security guards. Escort Mr. Henderson off the stage. Take him to the green room. Do not leave him alone. What? Daniel's voice was sharp. Angry. You can't do that. This is my son. This is my family. I can. And I am. You need to leave. Now. On what grounds? Dr. Phil's eyes were steel. On the grounds that your son just tried to run away from you on live television. On the grounds that he flinched when you touched him. On the grounds that I've been doing this for 30 years and I know what I'm seeing. You need to leave. Off camera, Dr. Phil made a choice no producer expected. Daniel opened his mouth to argue. The security guards moved closer. After a long moment, Daniel turned and walked off stage. His posture was rigid. Controlled. But in his eyes was rage. The moment he was gone, Kevin's legs gave out. He would have collapsed if Dr. Phil hadn't caught him. Guided him to sit on the edge of the stage. The audience was completely silent. Cameras were still rolling but nobody knew what to do. This had gone so far off script that there was no script anymore. Dr. Phil sat down next to Kevin. Not in a chair. On the floor. At the very edge of the stage. Feet dangling. Like they were kids sitting on a dock. Kevin, he said quietly, I need you to tell me what's happening at home. Maria was still in her chair, frozen, tissue pressed to her mouth. Dr. Phil gestured to one of the producers. Take Mrs. Henderson backstage. Give her water. A producer stays with her. Maria stood shakily. Is he okay? Is Kevin okay? He will be. But I need to talk to him alone. I'm his mother. I know. And we'll get you back in a moment. But right now, Kevin needs space. Please. Maria left. Now it was just Dr. Phil and Kevin on stage. 300 audience members watching in absolute silence. Millions at home watching screens. And a 16-year-old boy who'd been carrying something too heavy for too long. It's my dad, Kevin said finally. His voice was hoarse. He hurts me. Not like hitting. I mean, sometimes hitting. But mostly he just makes me feel like nothing. Like I'm worthless. Like everything I do is wrong. And when I started pulling away, started skipping school, started trying to be anywhere except home, he got worse. Angrier. And I thought if I came here, if we did this show, maybe someone would see. Maybe someone would notice. Because I can't. I can't go back there. I can't. Dr. Phil's jaw was tight. His hands were clasped in front of him. When he spoke, his voice was steady, but there was fury underneath. Controlled fury. Professional fury. Kevin, what you're describing is abuse. Emotional abuse is real abuse. It scars just as deep as physical abuse. And you were right to try to get help. Coming here took courage. What you just did, telling the truth, took more courage than most adults ever show. Kevin was crying openly now. Not quiet tears. Sobbing. The kind of crying that comes from years of holding it in. Dr. Phil pulled a handkerchief from his pocket. Handed it to Kevin. We're going to fix this. Not today. Not right now. But we're going to fix this. First, I'm going to have my team connect you with a counselor who specializes in family trauma. Second, we're going to make sure you have a safe place to stay tonight. Not with your father. Do you have other family? Grandparents? An aunt or uncle? Kevin nodded. My mom's sister. Aunt Rachel. She lives in the next town. I've wanted to ask if I could stay with her, but Dad won't let me. Your dad doesn't get a say anymore. Not about this. We're going to call your aunt. We're going to explain the situation. And you're going to stay with her while we figure out next steps. What about my mom? Dr. Phil looked toward the wings where Maria had been taken. Your mom is in a complicated position. She may not have known the extent of what was happening. Or she may have known and not known how to stop it. Either way, she's going to need help too. And she's going to have to make a choice about whether she's willing to protect you or protect your father. But that's her choice to make. Your job right now is to be safe. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Dr. Phil stood. Helped Kevin to his feet. Gestured to one of the producers. Get family services on the phone. Now. I want someone from Child Protective Services here within the hour. And I want Kevin's aunt contacted immediately. The producer nodded and disappeared. Dr. Phil turned back to Kevin. What happens now? Kevin asked. His voice was small. A child's voice. Now you wait in a safe room with one of our counselors. Your aunt is going to come get you. Tomorrow, CPS is going to interview you officially. They're going to investigate your home. Your father is going to be questioned. And you are not going back to that house until it's safe. Or maybe not at all. That depends on what the investigation finds. Am I in trouble? Trouble? Kevin, you're the victim here. You're not in trouble. You're in rescue. But what happened next is something no one in the room, or watching at home, saw coming. From backstage, there was a commotion. Raised voices. Dr. Phil's head snapped up. One of the security guards appeared, speaking urgently into his radio. Dr. Phil's expression darkened. What is it? Mr. Henderson is trying to leave the building. He's demanding his son. He's getting aggressive. Dr. Phil didn't hesitate. He looked at Kevin. Go with this guard. Right now. There's a private office 3 doors down. Lock yourself in. Do not open the door for anyone except me or the counselor. Understand? Kevin nodded, eyes wide. The guard led him quickly off stage. Dr. Phil turned to the remaining security. No one lets Daniel Henderson near this stage. No one. If he tries, you call the police. Are we clear? Yes, sir. Dr. Phil walked backstage. The cameras had stopped rolling. The audience sat in stunned silence. Producers were on phones, coordinating with legal, with CPS, with building security. This had become something far bigger than a television show. In the green room, Daniel was pacing. When Dr. Phil entered, he turned, face red with anger. You can't keep me from my son. Dr. Phil's voice was ice. I just did. And if you try to go near him, I'll have you arrested. Kevin is 16 years old, and he's terrified of you. That tells me everything I need to know. Child Protective Services is on their way. His aunt is coming to get him. And you're going to cooperate with their investigation or face legal consequences. Those are your options. Daniel took a step forward. Security moved between them. After a long moment, Daniel turned and left. Walked out of the building. Got in his car and drove away. Kevin stayed with his aunt that night. And the next night. And the one after that. The CPS investigation confirmed emotional abuse and evidence of physical intimidation. Daniel was ordered to attend mandatory counseling and prohibited from unsupervised contact with his son. Maria filed for separation 2 weeks later. 6 months later, Dr. Phil received a letter from Kevin. He was back in school, playing soccer again, seeing a therapist twice a week, living with his aunt and his mother, who'd chosen her son over her husband. The letter ended with 5 words. You saved my life. Thank you. Dr. Phil kept that letter in his desk. Not as a trophy. As a reminder that sometimes the show stops being a show. Sometimes the cameras don't matter. Sometimes all that matters is the terrified kid on stage who just needs one adult to see him. Really see him. And refuse to look away. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. That day, guards rushed the stage. Dr. Phil stopped the show. And a 16-year-old boy learned that asking for help isn't weakness. It's survival. And sometimes survival is the bravest thing you can do.